The Valtheran Empire stretched across 17 star systems, its crystalline spires glinting against the void like shards of frozen starlight. At its heart sat Empress Melissa, whose violet skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that marked her as royalty among her kind. For 3 centuries, the Valtherans had ruled with calculated precision, their advanced technology and telepathic abilities making them nearly unstoppable. Then humanity arrived, and everything changed. Burok stood behind the Empress's throne, his posture relaxed yet alert, brown eyes scanning the assembled court with an ease that unnerved every Valtheran present. He wore the simple grey uniform of a human diplomatic guard, but everyone in that chamber knew the truth. He wasn't just a guard. He was a statement, a living reminder of the treaty, signed in blood and necessity after humanity had done the impossible, fought the Valtheran armada to a stalemate. Melissa could feel the weight of her court's disapproval pressing against her mind like a physical force. Her advisors' thoughts leaked through despite their mental shields. Primitive, dangerous, unpredictable, the humans had no telepathy, no centuries of genetic refinement, no integration with their technology. They were short-lived creatures who compensated for their biological limitations with frightening creativity and an inexplicable refusal to surrender. "Your Radiance," Chancellor Vexener intoned, his silver robes flowing as he approached the throne. The mining colonies in the Tertius system report another delay. The human workers refuse to extend their shifts beyond the agreed parameters. Melissa felt Burok shift slightly behind her. She didn't need telepathy to sense his attention sharpening. "The agreement specifies 8-hour rotations," Burok said quietly, his voice carrying despite its softness. "Humans aren't telepathic. We can't share the cognitive load like your people. We need rest." Vexener's luminescent patterns flared orange with irritation. "The Empress was not addressing you, human. I'm addressing you, Chancellor." Melissa's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "The treaty terms are clear. We will honor them." The Chancellor bowed stiffly and retreated. But Melissa felt the ripples of discontent spreading through her court like poison in water. They feared Burok, she realized, not because he was physically imposing, though his human musculature was denser than any Valtheran's, but because he represented something they couldn't control or predict. She feared him too, though for different reasons. That night, Melissa stood on her private balcony, overlooking the capital city of Crystalis Prime. The twin moons cast everything in shades of blue and silver, and for a moment she could pretend the weight of her crown didn't exist. "You should be resting. Your Radiance." She didn't turn at Burok's voice. Over the 6 months since he'd been assigned to her personal detail, she'd grown accustomed to his presence. Too accustomed, perhaps. "My rest is troubled lately," she admitted. "My people whisper rebellion. They believe I've grown weak, accepting humans as equals rather than subjects." Burok moved to stand beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "And what do you believe?" "I believe... Melissa paused, her bioluminescent patterns dimming to a soft purple, the color of uncertainty among her kind. "I believe I'm terrified of making the wrong choice. For 3 centuries, my people have known only dominance. Now I ask them to coexist." "Change is always frightening," Burok said. "My people were the same once. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we learned to work together. How did you survive it?" "We didn't, always. We lost billions learning that lesson. But eventually, enough of us realized that cooperation made us stronger than conquest ever could." Melissa finally turned to look at him. In the moonlight, his features seemed carved from stone, yet his eyes held a warmth no Valtheran had ever directed at her. Her people could share thoughts, emotions, entire memories with a touch, but such intimacy bred distance. Everyone knew everyone's secrets. Privacy was an illusion. Trust was calculated. Humans were different. They guarded their thoughts, shared them only through the imperfect medium of words. It should have made them cold, isolated. Instead, it made their voluntary vulnerability precious. "May I?" Melissa hesitated, extending her hand. "Among my people, a touch shares everything. Thoughts, feelings, memories. But you're human. You're safe from that." Burok studied her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. The absence of telepathic connection felt like silence after a lifetime of noise. No thoughts flooded her mind. No emotions crashed against her mental barriers. There was only the warmth of his hand, the slight roughness of his skin, the steady pulse of his heartbeat conducting through his fingers. That it was the first time in 3 centuries anyone had touched Melissa without knowing everything about her. The first time she could simply exist, without the burden of shared consciousness. A sob caught in her throat. "Your Radiance." Concern colored Burok's voice. I'm alone, she whispered. For the first time since my coronation, I'm truly alone. And her patterns shifted to gold, the color of joy. It's wonderful. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You're always connected to your people, aren't you? Always feeling their thoughts, their expectations, their judgments. Always, she confirmed. It's the price of leadership among the total transparency, total accountability, but also total isolation, because when everyone knows everything, there are no surprises, no discoveries, she searched for the word. No mystery, Burek supplied. Yes. Melissa's grip on his hand tightened. With you, there is mystery, choice, the possibility of trust earned rather than access granted. They stood in silence, hands clasped under the twin moons. In the distance, the capital hummed with millions of telepathic connections, a vast neural network that pulsed with shared consciousness. And here, on this balcony, two beings stood in perfect, voluntary isolation. Your court will use this against you, Burek said eventually. If they know you seek refuge in a human's company, let them. Melissa's patterns flared bright silver, the color of defiance. I am Empress. I've made hard choices before. If being close to you two humanity teaches me how to lead without drowning in the collective consciousness, then that's a choice I'll defend. Burok smiled, and Melissa realized it was the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. Then I'll be here, your radiance, for as long as you need a sanctuary. The word resonated through her. Sanctuary. Not a weapon or a symbol or a diplomatic necessity, simply a quiet space where an empress could set down her crown and remember what it felt like to be a person. In the cycles that followed, Melissa's court would indeed whisper and scheme. They would see the human guard and the empress standing together, and they would fear the implications. But they would also see an empress who ruled with renewed strength, who made decisions with clarity rather than drowning in the telepathic weight of consensus. And behind the throne, Burok would stand not as a conqueror or a threat, but as something far more revolutionary, a friend who offered the simple gift of presence without intrusion, connection without possession. In a universe of forced intimacy, they had discovered the radical power of chosen closeness, and it would change everything.